Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, I'm thankful to be recording this morning while not watching live active severe storms moving across the Carolinas, unlike we saw a week ago. The two maps you've been looking at here show that system last weekend, so the 12th and the 13th. And on Easter Sunday, almost 800 reports of severe weather, and early into Easter Monday, we can see those storms moving here over into the Carolinas. In fact, we saw several reports of tornadoes out of both days here. Now, one of those tornadoes was actually record-setting, but it wasn't in the Carolinas, thankfully. It was back over in parts of Mississippi. This particular track of tornadoes was viewed from space like this. Professor Strader here from Villanova looking down at a map where the color, the shading in the background there represents the NDVI. That's a pretty common satellite parameter that we have in farming. And we were actually able to measure the width of this particular tornado both by satellite and by the National Weather Service damage crew out of Jackson, Mississippi, as being 2.25 miles wide. That now makes that the third widest tornado on record, behind the Halem, Nebraska, May 2004 tornado that was 2.5 miles wide, and then the biggest one we've ever observed, which was in El Reno, Oklahoma, back in 2013, May of 2013, which was 2.6 miles wide. Incredible. Well, that same area was hit on Sunday again, just yesterday, and we can see here the storms moving from eastern Texas all the way over to just now this morning being off of the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. And they once again did quite a bit of damage in the overnight hours as these storms raced across the south here. But as we take a quick look at where the lightning is out of these storms early this morning on Monday, we can see that the most active storms are off the coast, meaning what's moving through the Carolinas through the rest of mid-morning to this morning is just going to be some rain. And at times it could be relatively heavy in some locations across North and South Carolina. When we look back at the storm reports out of this so far, we can see we're adding another 219 reports, and this was very early in the morning on Monday, so I anticipate that we're going to see quite a few more reports coming out of this storm system again, which hit at the end of the weekend. But if we just put this all in a broader perspective, what it did do was add a lot of rainfall to this map. It's the last 7 days of total accumulated precipitation, and some of those storms through early this morning put down quite a bit of rainfall down here in parts of the south, and we're going to be adding to this throughout the mid-morning hours here in the Carolinas as the slow rain steadily kind of progresses over our area. When we put it into the perspective of the last couple of weeks, a couple of things I want you to know. Coming outside of the Carolinas, we had drier conditions that moved through parts of the north central plains, drier conditions in parts of the central corn belt, and dry down here in the southern plains. Now, what's important about recognizing those three areas is that this upcoming week there is going to be a lot of planting activity. I also want to mention that we did see early last week that right here in central Kansas, temperatures got down for about 3 to, on some locations, up to 10 hours below 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which is critical for wheat. So just want to keep your perspective on this. We're going to be doing a lot of damage surveys this week to understand if there was damage to the wheat crop in this area. Also notice how dry things were in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of crops grown there that we also grow in the Carolinas. They were dry and warm, and they've got a great forecast that is coming forward. So from there, let's just look at what our current soil moisture anomalies look like through April 18th. And we can see that throughout much of the Carolinas, things look pretty good. We're wettest here in the Appalachian Mountains. But I want to do something for you. I just want to compare what things look like right now through April 18th as to what they looked like a year ago. It was actually much wetter across the state. And in fact, we were just starting to get very wet in this section of the United States, such that by June, this whole region was sitting at an average of 6+ inches of surplus moisture in the soil. So the Midwest, the Corn Belt, is not having a year like it had a year ago, and expect major planting progress over the next 2 weeks in the midsection of the country. So for you corn and soybean farmers in North and South Carolina, listen up to that, because they're going to be moving quickly. In fact, I went out and drove through the country yesterday just to see how many planters I saw rolling, and it was almost in every field where I live here in Illinois. So they're going to keep going and get that stuff planted. And here's the reason why. I've got the GFS on the left. I got the European on the right. And if you look, while we anticipate here a storm system moving through middle and into the week that's going to be bringing in a lot of rain and the chance for some more thunderstorms, there's a broad sector of our corn belt here that will have relatively wide open planting windows. In other words, when it does precipitate, we're not talking about much. It'll only be clipping parts of Kansas, Missouri, southern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, with the potential for some heavier rains that both models are kind of picking up on here. So this is a critical piece to the overall picture of ag as we move into the end of April and beginning of May. Because as we get out here now into the first week of May, take a look at this. We are anticipating the jet stream to just build into a trough that's in the Gulf of Alaska, a ridge over the western United States, and then a broader trough that's going to sit over parts of the Great Lakes states in the northeast. Now, on the GFS model over here, you can see that the position of that jet stream flow pattern doesn't necessarily mean increased precipitation for North Carolina. But the European model is a little different story, as you can see over here. It's continuing the wetter than average conditions into week 2. But do notice how big of a sector of the middle part of the United States is expecting to see drier than average conditions. Doesn't mean no precipitation into week 2, just means drier. So we have to then say, are they going to be able to plant based on temperatures? Well, we saw this last week. Over the last 7 days, big ridge built into Alaska, big ridge built into Greenland, and as a result, this cold air just came plowing through the United States. In fact, it really hammered us over here as we anticipated North Carolina on Thursday. And just a snapshot at 6 a.m. temperatures on Thursday morning, those contour lines I put on that black contour line represents everything inside of it where temperatures did get down below 32 degrees Fahrenheit for just a few moments. And so we can see we did have some patchy frost across the state. Well, as we go forward in the forecast, take a look at the broader picture first. So over the next 5 days, we certainly see that the colder air is starting to pivot into the Canadian Maritimes, although we're still hanging on to the cooler than average weather across much of the south, mid-south, and southeast, and that includes, of course, the Carolinas. Specifically, walking through the next several days, we're only going to look here at minimum temperatures. Those will be represented by the numbers. The color shading represents the difference from normal. So as we play this one forward, let's just go ahead and take a look. Here's Monday morning's temperatures. But you're going to notice by Tuesday into Wednesday, the colder air that's tucked away here will be moving over toward the south and east. So if you watch this is Tuesday morning's lows and their departure from normal. This is now Wednesday. So once again, we have a morning where we're going to be seeing temperatures before the sun rises somewhere possibly in the low 40s to upper 30s across the state of North Carolina. But we will moderate past that. So this is now looking at things on Thursday morning, now Friday morning, getting into Saturday morning and Sunday. So you do see the moderation occurring, but we do have a shot at some cooler air midweek this week. Okay, what about beyond that, the 6 to 10 day time period? The jet stream again is going to be doing something like this. And as a result, warmth out west, but broader, cooler conditions across the east. The good news is, compared to what we saw a week ago, this is not the same magnitude of cold. So with that, let's just take a look at what that flow pattern looks like all the way out to day 10, because the number one thing you're going to need to be watching is how long this ridge stays in place. Because if it's there and it blocks the flow and the flow goes around it like that, we don't break off of this cooler pattern here in the eastern part of the United States, potentially until after the first week of May. We're going to have to watch it carefully, but that would be the implications of keeping this ridge in place. This same ridge, though, is what's keeping the Central Plains and the Western Corn Belt warm and dry. I'll put a D over it, dry in that area. What are we dealing with in the near term? Well, I'm concerned once again about more severe weather across the south and then possibly getting some stronger storms over toward the Carolinas toward the end of the week. And what I'm watching specifically is this little shortwave feature right here. Now, the bigger features are going to be this trough and how it moves toward the Gulf of Alaska, toward the Aleutian Islands, maybe the Bering Sea. We need to watch the depth of this trough become much more shallow and move to the east. That would be good for relinquishing some of the deep cold that we've been in. So this is what we're going to be on the lookout for, and this is how it looks today. The main feature we're going to have to watch for our midweek storm system is that trough right there. And it's going to get pulled into this flow and eventually, throughout the week, move across the southern United States and over toward the Carolinas. So So let's go ahead and take a look at the severe weather threat. Now this was for early this morning, so this severe weather threat is gone by now. But as we work our way into Tuesday, that wave emerges here over into parts of Texas. And by the time we get into Wednesday, we now once again have our severe weather threat here over the south central part of the United States, getting over to the lower Mississippi River Valley. Now, to show you Thursday, I want you to look over here at this map. Now, this map is not Thursday, it's Wednesday. But my point is to show you that we've developed our own proprietary thunderstorm index at Nutrien Ag Solutions, and we can see that it is matching up extremely well with what the Storm Prediction Center is looking at. Now, this is just a snapshot at 7 p.m. So in the overnight hours, these storms will be moving here over toward Alabama, but very good correlation. Now, why I'm showing you this is because at this point early in the morning on Monday, the Storm Prediction Center was still analyzing Thursday. This is how things look Thursday afternoon. Now, at this point, the chances from the current model observations I have of getting severe thunderstorms or even thunderstorms at all across North Carolina are greatly diminished. But to the south of there, we once again watch for increased threat of severe weather moving through parts of South Carolina, potentially, and then to parts of Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. So I just want to make you aware of that system moving through this week because it will be bringing rain to the Carolinas, but I think the severe weather stays to the south. So let's watch it first with our high resolution modeling, and then we're going to get into the longer range stuff with the European. So let's step this back and look at the big features early this week. First things first, here's the system that's moving through us early this morning. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock this morning right here. And as we work our way through mid-morning, light showers moving out of the way through early afternoon. Now what we're going to watch after that pulls out of here by mid-afternoon is a system coming out of the Canadian prairies and then skirting over toward the north and east. And as it does so, you can see that it is pushing a frontal boundary through the eastern Corn Belt, such that by the time we get into Tuesday morning, it's sitting here over the Appalachian Mountains, and Tuesday midday, I'm going to be watching for widely scattered showers moving through parts of the Carolinas. So that's really North Carolina, and that's what I'm going to be watching, just a chance for some showers on Tuesday afternoon and evening. After that, our next big system is taking shape here in the Central Plains, so let's go switch over to the European model to see where that one's going to go. So if we pause it right here, this is now Wednesday morning. We're going to get into Wednesday afternoon and evening. Now, we're going to be under the control of higher atmospheric pressure at this time period, so really Tuesday night into Wednesday. But as you can see here, by Wednesday evening, the severe weather is already pushing through parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley. And what we're going to see is that by Thursday morning, the chances for showers increase here across North Carolina. And then once I get into Thursday afternoon and evening, this is where there is the potential for, like I said, some stronger thunderstorms farther to the south. What will change any of this? If this low pressure system has a farther northerly trajectory, that could pull that unstable air farther to the north and increase the severe weather threat on Thursday night for North Carolina. But at this point, I think what I'm anticipating is at times some pretty heavy rainfall out of the system moving through again Thursday afternoon and evening, getting into Friday morning, early morning hours. Okay, so that system is on out. And what we're going to watch after that for the weekend is we have a little weak system moving through Illinois and Indiana. And as it pushes over toward the east, it could increase on Saturday our chances for seeing some widely scattered showers. That's really it. So what we're dealing with this morning, bit of a break, and then mid to end of this week is the second big system, and then we might get some mid-weekend showers. That's what we're seeing as we look at over the next 7 days. Now again, into week 2, the European model is favoring this pattern. So again, what do we see as we look out there day 10 through 15? We kind of hang on to our cooler than average bias. And because of the flow meeting up with the subtropical branch of the jet stream, it's really coming together here. And as a result, we just may see slightly wetter than average conditions going into week 2. All right, that's the bigger picture as we stretch this out. Beyond that, this is now the full month of May. European weeklies just released at the end of last week show us the long-range forecast for May, and there's a broad sector of the United States anticipated by the models to be on the wetter side of things. When we look at temperatures, overall we see near average temperatures as we progress through the month of May for a large section here of the United States. Warmer than average conditions certainly out west. And going beyond that, I want to show you some of the latest updates from for May, June, and July from the longer range European model, because we're going to get newer updates at the beginning of May, so we need to keep these in the back of our minds. What is the European model saying for May, June, and July? Well, overall, the warmth could be out west with near average temperatures for the start of our summer across parts of the Carolinas. The CPC out of NOAA is banking on a little bit warmer than average conditions here, and that would certainly follow some longer term trends. But in general, you can see both models are trying to keep the central United States on the cooler side of things to start off the year. So let's keep that in mind. What about precipitation? Well, just like I showed you with the European weeklies, the May, June, and July precipitation anomalies continue to stay above average, both from the CPC and also from the European model. So I just want you to see this late spring, early summer outlook here from these two different forecasting centers, okay? To finish that up, I want to finally show you the May, June, and July from the National Multi-Model Ensemble. It too is keeping this particular region wet as well. So it appears that we're going into spring with a better chance than not at seeing an elevated risk for wetter than average conditions across much of the United States major ag region, at least on this side of the Rocky Mountains. Okay, globally, something to think about here. Last week in some of my other weather reports, I was showing this new data from a satellite called GRACE. Now, GRACE has been around for a while, but I want to show you the new data for April of this year. The G in GRACE stands for gravity. So this is a gravity-based technique measuring minute fluctuations in gravity across the planet to understand how water's flowing through the surface and subsurface. And a couple of areas I want to point out to you. Look at how dry things are in Europe. We notice that from basically eastern France all the way through Ukraine, things are quite dry. Same with China's main growing areas around Beijing. Now come down south into the southern hemisphere. Let's take a closer look at what's going on in South America to finish up this video. Another satellite-based technique over here showing us from the SMAP sensor soil moisture anomalies. And you can see that southern Mato Grosso do Sul, and then getting down here into Paraná and Rio Grande do Sul, conditions right now are looking very dry. We've been noticing over the last couple of months that the precipitation departure from normal being the dashed line here, that we've had several dry spells in this particular area. That's what that is valid for. And those drier conditions in that area are now starting to show up in the yield reports coming out of that region, and it doesn't look very good. And unfortunately, over the next week, things look very, very dry in southern Brazil, parts of Uruguay, and Paraguay. Paraguay is right here, and Uruguay is there. Northern Brazil's growing areas still having normal monsoonal precipitation. And as we look out into week 2, we still see that area dry, while precipitation chances increase here in Argentina. So just want to give you that perspective on what's happening in South America because of the story developing in southern Brazil. And with that, I'm going to wish you all a great week. I look forward to talking again next Monday. Have a good one. Thank you.